Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. Today we're going to talk about Pralay and India's defense capability, which is growing very fast. Some of you might not believe it, but that's a fact. Uh, why Pralay? What's Pralay? Pralay is a quasi-ballistic missile, which is going to be showcased tomorrow in the Republic Day parade. And that's why I thought today I'll talk about it. It's made quite a buzz. A lot of people said, "Sir, will you speak about it?" All that. I've done a show already on News 9. It'll be there with Sandeep Punithan. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to go live on News 9 Plus. Join in at 8 o'clock. And I'll put the link out. But having said that, let's get ahead with what we have to do. Let's talk of Pralay. Okay. This is the firing of Pralay, which I'll show you, which was done sometime last year. After all, it's been under test for long. We'll get to Pralay, but in the course of seeing Pralay, after this video, we will see how India's missile capability has grown by leaps and bounds in the past 1 year. Let's start this with, it's a small clips. Have a look, you get an idea what this is all about. Yeah, so this is Pralay firing. Impressive takeoff, very steady. I like the thing. It's a small clip, right? It just gives you an idea as to what it is. Okay, but let's talk of something else now. These pictures which you see are the pictures of the DF-17 and the DF-21D. These are the hypersonic systems which China has. Well, one way of looking at it is, oh, we are not there. We are not, at the level of China. That's fine. But why should you compare yourself with China? I mean, that the most foolish thing is to compete or compare ourselves with China in terms of numbers and capabilities. Never do that. Unless we are completely out of the picture. But we are not. What we need to have is to have the necessary capability to deter or defeat our adversary. The question is, do we have that? If we have that, we are okay. I mean, we don't need more. That's the watchword. Because if you, China has defense requirements which are dictated by its ambitions. Our requirements are different, dictated by our ambitions or interests. And fundamentally, our interests are safeguarding our territorial integrity, sovereignty, and our area of interest. Whereas China has global interests, so he needs more. But can he bring to bear all what he has against us? No, that has been proven. So we need to have what we need to, deter China from doing what it wants to do. Okay, we all know we fired the hypersonic missile last time, and that's the picture on the right which I've shown. And so let's track some capability progress which we have undertaken in this to get. Then we'll get to Pralay and we'll see what Pralay is all about. Okay, first and foremost, last year, 17 November, we fired our hypersonic.
3, 2, 1, now.
And we did a lot of analysis of it. Now it's very clear that it's a stable system, right? And let's look at the effect, which is, I think, very important. So that missile has got a range. The hypersonic missile has got a range of about 1,500 kilometers. With 1,500 kilometers, you get a arc like this. If you put this missile at the tip of the Indian peninsula, and if you put it somewhere on the eastern seaboard, somewhere on Chennai, Vizag, you get this kind. And if you put it, say, in the run of Kutch, you cover right up to Oman. So This missile system gives us the capability to cover the IOR completely. That's what you need. And let me put it here. Here, if you go here, where my pointer is, this is Andaman, this is Lakshadweep. So if you put one odd missile system here by some method, you should be able to cover a larger area of this. Or for that matter, that Agaliga, where we have a base, we are developing something, we could cover more. So you have, if with the basis, the reach is extended. So virtually, the hypersonic missile system gives us the capability to control the Indian Ocean region, anything. Okay, and when you compare it with the DF-17, which has got a range of say 1,500 kilometers, this is the range you get. Yeah, China from its east coast can cover, the first island chain and part of the second island chain. And because of our peninsular location, which juts deep into the Indian Ocean, you get the 1,000 kilometers extra range. The differential is killed. He's got a range of 2,500, you got a range of 1,500, but still your coverage doesn't reduce. And you can take the Chinese missile up and down the coast. The lateral coverage doesn't increase. But if you take our missile along the peninsula, the geographic multiplication is huge. That's the advantage. When you say you don't have to compare with others, you need to know what you have and what you do consistent with our requirements. Okay. And further, if you put this in Andaman Nicobar, you're going across virtually. And Andaman Nicobar, I've just put it at one place. That's also a huge chain. So if you go further north, you cover a large distance into China. You don't have to remember, you don't have to necessarily go northeast to cover China. Andaman Nicobar is better because it has strategic coverage. Apart from Malacca Strait, from there, my guess is you should be able to hit their bases in the South China Sea also. Okay. The other significant thing is we fought the K4 missile from INS Arigat, nuclear sub. This was around the same time. It went largely unnoticed, 27th November. What's the K4 missile? Have a look at it. It's got a range of 3,500 meters. Pretty long range, right? And that gives you a tremendous capability. Let me get this layout proper so that you can have a look. Yeah, that gives you a tremendous capability, and it's a good missile. It's an intermediate range submarine launched missile. So you can that gives you the triad capability also. Okay. And then of course we have the Pinaka, which I keep showing you almost every day. Right? We can have a look at the video again. No problem in that. And it's a very, very good one. The army, this is the most favorite. Call it missile, call it rocket, guided rocket. Okay. And then, of course, the beauty of Pinaka is even France is trying to buy it. I mentioned about it last time also. Right. Then in March, which we did analyze it in great detail. If you remember, we fired the Agni 5. What was special about the Agni 5? We fired it with the MIRV. What is MIRV? Multiple independent re-entry vehicles, which meant that each missile could take 3 to 10 warheads, miniature warheads, sub-warhead, whatever you call it. Is a tremendous capability. Very few countries have it, and we have it. China has it, of course. USA has it. Russia has it. And that's it. So, and you get a tremendous range, 5,000 kilometers, completely ballistic with re-entry. All 10 or 5 or 6, that no one will tell us, can go to independent targets after re-entry. Very important. Okay. Then we tested the nearby missile, cruise missile, with indigenous propulsion system. Okay. Now this is the test of that missile, which was carried out, uh, cruising well. And this has got a range of about 1,000 kilometers. Can be used in anti-sea role and against ground attack also. And we're looking at both. We're looking to induct nearby up there also. Right. Then you see in May, we fired this very unique thing. It's a supersonic missile assisted release of a torpedo system. This was tested off the Odisha coast, middle of last year. Now, what's so special about it? It's a canister based missile system. You fire a missile, right, with a two-stage propulsion system. And what happens is you fire the missile, this missile, as it enters the water, it releases a torpedo. It carries a lightweight torpedo with a parachute and all that. So once it hits the water, it goes like a torpedo, so, which is a great improvement. Right? It's something highly different. Okay. Then we fired the BrahMos air launch version. We tested it last year to much refinement. I mean, BrahMos, we've always had BrahMos. In fact, I remember when I was commanding the artillery division, I had a BrahMos regiment. I'm now going back into 2010, 2012. But today, we have the capability of mounting it on a Sukhoi, which gives you excellent capability. Okay, and we've tested it. There's a footage of, of course, naturally it's not the original footage, it's the file footage. As you can see, it's dropped and then it takes off. So you have this capability, right? All this capability has been developed over a couple of years. So where does that leave you? It leaves you with tremendous capability in terms of being able to counter any missile threat, missile to missile threat. Okay, now we'll talk of Pralay. See, with all this, you add Pralay into the whole story. So what does Pralay do? Okay, this is Pralay. It's going to be put on the Republic Day tomorrow down Kartavya Path. Very interesting. 2 missiles on this launcher. Now let me highlight something about this launcher. This is an Ashok Leyland launcher, 12 by 12. Okay, it's a high mobility vehicle, all that fine. What's special about this is, earlier all our missile systems were based on the Tatra. So Tatra was a ZEC system. We had a lot of problems. If you remember 10, 12 years back, when General VK Singh was the chief, there was a scandal about Tatra for 2 years. Tatra was banned and the ban was lifted. In that period of the ban, all our systems which are based on Tatra went into cold storage. We couldn't buy a single Tatra directly, and we couldn't change it. Now we got out of the trap. Now we have Ashok Leyland. It's come through a competitive process. I'm sure Tata has given a chance. We'll also be able to produce it. So this is a major thing. So henceforth, all our rocket systems can have indigenous launchers. Very important. Oh, what is the Pralay system all about? It's a big system. It's not a small system. It's got a payload of 350 to 700 kg. Solid fuel rocket motor. It's got a circular CEP of less than 10 meters. Very accurate. At 500 kilometers, 10 meters. Okay. Warhead, it's got 3 types of warhead, as one can understand. HE fragmentation, penetration cum blast, and runway denial ammunition. It acquires a speed of 6.1 Mach. That's the interesting thing, and I'll explain to you a little later. You can target radar installations, command centers, airstrips, any high value target you can have. And it's got a seeker, it's got a millimetric wave radar seeker. That gives it the accuracy. That's important to understand. All right. Of course, there's some more details in this. The launch speed is not high in this missile. It's just about 1.6, 1.7 Mach. It can be fired in a low trajectory. At shorter ranges, you can fire it at a lower trajectory. That's why you have the range as 150 to 500 kilometers. So a lot of flexibility, right? Yeah. So this is how the whole story is. Now, this is a rear view of the missile, or rather the transporter erector launcher with two missiles. It's got, the thing which is folded here, this is the deflector. It comes onto the ground, and from there, fire gets deflected, or the missile exhaust gets deflected out. So it's got a jet deflector, which is very interesting. The Army has gone in for about 230 missiles. The Air Force wants about 120 missiles. I don't know how many regiments are going to be raised and all that, but this is quite a packet. For example, if I put a thing, the Air Force could end up by having at least 2 to 3 regiments with 40 to 50 missiles each, depending on how they look at it. And the Army also would be, since it's gone for about 230 missiles, about, I might not be right in this 100%. The figures, so that could also be 4 to 5 regiments. So with this, you get a whole red coverage of the LAC in depth, but I'll talk of it a little later. Okay, now we have to understand what's special about this. This is a MARV. What is a MARV? A MARV is a maneuverable re-entry vehicle. What does it do? Once it does the re-entry back into, it is fired, goes into the atmosphere, and once it does the re-entry back into the atmosphere, it can change its trajectory, right? And that it does like an aircraft. It generates aerodynamic lift and changes. Now, the moment a missile starts changing its trajectory or path, it's difficult to track. You might track it, but it's difficult to intercept it because you don't know where that fellow is going. Okay, and you send this interceptor at one angle, this fellow is going at another angle. Unless the interceptor also can maneuver, it's a difficult proposition and maneuver pretty fast. Okay, invariably that's a difficult task because any interceptor missile, if this chap is going at 4 or 5 Mach, that has to go at 8, 9 Mach. And at higher the Mach numbers, the more difficult to maneuver. Okay, and since this is a short range missile, not much deviation, not much time involved, very fast missile, difficult to track. I would say difficult to track, difficult to intercept. Okay, and trajectory becomes unpredictable, so it's very difficult to get hold of it. And it can undertake evasive maneuvers. Now that mechanism, how much is incorporated in this is something which no one will tell you, right? So that's how it is. And also, if you have the maneuvering capability towards the terminal phase, you can maneuver it onto the target, right? Whether this missile can do that or not, we'll know as we go by. At this point of time, no one will tell us. Okay, look at this picture. See, in this, the first phase is the boost phase. Okay, this is the boost phase. It's boosted in, then there's the mid-course phase. It goes into the atmosphere, rather exosphere. It goes out into space, and then it does a re-entry. Now, what happens is the moment it goes here, it is now traveling at this, speed of a satellite or something like that. Certain amount, it's gone into space. Earth is moving at a space, isn't it? After all, Earth is going also rotating at a fast pace. So it gains speed as it enters, plus the gravity. So once it does a re-entry, this is called the quasi-equilibrium glide phase. It can glide. This is like a glide vehicle, a hypersonic glide vehicle. And it's got reasonable speed. It could go up to 4 to 6 Mach. And then, of course, there's a terminal phase which will go vertically down. And any missile which is coming vertically down, very difficult to intercept. So you have to intercept it best. The best interception is somewhere in this region. And that's the time when it can maneuver. So it's a difficult missile. And again, it's got only 500 kilometers range max. So, and at that speed, very little time for someone to track, identify it as a missile, and then fire. You see, the whole there's a time sequence in all this. You have to identify. I wouldn't say identify. First, you have to detect the missile. After detecting the missile, you have to identify whose missile, where is it going, all that, and then you have to nominate a particular interceptor to go and intercept this missile, and that fellow has to be given, what shall I say, instructions depending on wherever it is, and then he fires and takes off. So time is of essence. And in this, when all this, someone is evading, that missile is still going at Mach 4, Mach 5 and maneuvering. Well, this is a two-way game. Even the Chinese would do it. So let's not think that only we can do. Everyone can do it. But then he has it, you have it, there's deterrence. That's the story. Okay. Now let me look at certain operational aspects in Tibet. How does this help? See, I've shown here Ningchi, Lhasa, Hotan, and Kashgar. See, the main central highway, which is called the Central Highway, comes from Qinghai to Lhasa. Along this runs the Central Railway also, the QTP, Qinghai Tibet Railway. QTR, not QTP, QTR, Qinghai Tibet Railway. That's the main axis. From here, Lhasa, the western route goes up to Kashgar and then turns back to Hotan. Why I put Kashgar and Hotan is this. Hotan is their major air base. Okay? Hotan is at low altitude. Now, from Lhasa to that place, this is the main artery in which troops have to deploy along our border. Not only troops, their systems, logistics, everything has to be there. They can't get out of this. North of this, for another 400 kilometers, there are no roads. And in the east is this road from Lhasa, which goes to Ningchi and then goes to Yunnan. It hugs the LAC. When you say hugs the LAC, see the distance from Leh to Hotan is 350 kilometers. And say in this Bhutan, Arunachal and Tibet tri-junction, Lhasa is about 200 kilometers. You come down to Chimbi Valley, it will be about 250 kilometers as the crow flies. So, a missile with about 500 kilometers range will cover this entire area. The moment you cover this entire area and he can't go anywhere, he's under your, he's in problems. That's why I said, you can move out, your logistics can move out of his reach. His logistics can't. That's a terrain advantage we have. And his logistics are on flat ground, not ours. That's why he tucks in with tunnels and this and that. But how much can you tuck? At some point of time, you have to come out. You can't hide a air base. And he's got very limited air bases. So we'll talk of that. 5 major air bases. Ali, Shigatse, Lhasa and Ningchi. These are all within this 500 kilometer range. Chamdo is a little behind. That won't be in reach. Okay. Now, this is the old thinking, old airports. This is the infrastructure he's built, whether it's airports or heliports or early morning stations or air defense sites. All this. It's very clear here what was there pre-Eastern Ladakh, what was there pre-Doklam, or everything. We have, and this is open source information. We must be having very clear, accurate, locations by now. Now, most of these will come in the ambit of Pralay. That's the qualitative jump you get. Whereas he can't reach you. That's especially your air bases, which are down below. For him to come over the hump and attack your airbase is very difficult. Now, there's always a lot of people keep talking the rocket force for India. Okay. And for a rocket force, these 5 conditions are required. I'll go over each of them. You need rockets and missiles in adequate quantity, in variety and quantity. Then you need something called a Recce strike complex. I'll explain it. Then you need an operational philosophy to mesh in with your theater command concept, which is coming in. And then, of course, you need to understand there are organizations of reform and jointness. But the first 2 are the most important. Let's look at that. This is as per that missile threat. You go to missile threat website, you get this India's ballistic and cruise missile. I mean, nothing very great about it. This data is absolutely right. Yeah, there. Now, Pralay and Nirbhay fit in here. Pralay fits in between the range of Prithvi and Agni, right? And Nirbhay, which is a 1,000 kilometer subsonic cruise missile, fits in between its Agni variants. So it fills gaps. These are gap fillers to get you seamless thing. And there's of course the characteristics of Nirbhay, just to give an idea, right? You can have a look at it in your own time. That's why I put it on an enlarged mode. And then, of course, the BrahMos, which has got a range of about 500 kilometers now. So, these are the characteristics. Where am I leading to? Now, we also have the Pinaka, which has a range of about 120 kilometers. So, when you talk of firepower, you need to look at something else. You need to look at a layered approach. Guns, which in high altitude give you additional range. So K9 Vajra, which has a range of about 39-40 kilometers, gets another 10 kilometers, up to 50 kilometers. Pinaka goes to 80 kilometers. Smerch, 100 kilometers. BrahMos, 500 kilometers. Pralay, 500 kilometers. Okay. Nirbhay, 1,000 kilometers. So you have a layered approach. And it covers your entire Tibet Plateau. The advantage of Pralay and Nirbhay are it is not only giving you coverage in depth, it also gives you sideways coverage. The arc will be pretty long. So you cover a fair amount of the border. Right? And in places where you can't reach up to the LAC, and these weapon systems are at the rear, even if they're at the rear, you are able to reach with the range up to the LAC. So a lot of things. This layered thing is what we have. So in terms of the variety, you have enough. But what we have to understand is all these are not, especially Pralay and Nirbhay, these are just getting inducted. You don't have them in adequate numbers as it. It will take time. Okay. And then the second thing is the Recce strike complex, which is something which people don't understand, must understand. What is the Recce strike complex? The Recce strike complex is a concept, it's a Russian concept, but I'll explain the concept to you, but it is valid for everyone. It is basic common sense. So in this, what are the Recce elements? The Recce elements are either space-based surveillance elements, aerial-based, they could be ground-based, or they could be deep assets. Okay? Anyone. Right. With of course, due communications. All right. We'll come to communication. And then you need strike elements. Strike elements could be aircrafts, it could be UAVs, it could be missiles, rockets, guns, the works. So here I've added the business of aircraft. Aircraft could be bombers or fighters or whoever. You need delivery system. That's the watchword. And then you need C4I elements, computers, combat, command, all that. Okay. Why? What do they need? You need all these elements for? You need them for target analysis. You need them for GIS, gridding, mapping, operations, deployment, logistics. All this has to be done because Why do you need deployment and logistics? Your missiles might have to sidestep from one place to the other. If they have to sidestep, you need to have logistics to go with it. Then the whole thing is stitched together by layered communications. These layered communications could be satellite communications, could be fiber optics, it could be radio communications, of course, encrypted and what have you. Now, this has to be put in place. Do we have some of these items in place? Yes, we have. It's not as if we are starting from scratch. But are they all integrated with a thought process? That's the question. Not all. Just to give you a heads up, the battlefield surveillance system called Sanjay is being also paraded tomorrow. So this is, part of this. When you look at the C4I elements, Sanjay is part of that. It's not as if we are not thinking of it. We don't have a Reiki strike complex. It's coming side by side. And Sanjay is a thing which we started when I was in service. Now it's come to light. When I say come to light, final. Okay, what does it do? It's the automated battle surveillance system with inputs from all ground and aerial battlefield sensors. And it processes all these inputs, cross-checks it, veracity, it prevents duplication, and then there's data fusion. And then a common, surveillance picture is given over the entire battlefield and disseminated. So if you look at this, you have certain Reiki elements. Some might be missing. You'll have to put them together. You have strike elements which are coming in. You have C4 elements which are being deployed slowly. You have communication. Now the idea is to stitch them all together. That's the point. How? You need to have an operational philosophy. And this operational philosophy has to mesh in with the theater command concept which is now being put into place. Now, we also have to understand, people loosely talk of this rocket force for India and all that there are organizational issues of reform. This is the year of reform. In this year of reform, you're going to do a lot of reform. A lot of organizations are going to change. This theater command, if it comes, it's a huge change. The question then is, would you like to do all changes simultaneously? No, you can't. Because it doesn't matter what you change. The enemy is still there, whether it's Pakistan or China. You have to be ready always. So you change any point of time during change. If there's an adverse situation, you have to handle it. So this is something which we must understand. So I don't know whether this rocket force will also be driven in along with the theater command or not. But then that's a thing which people who are in chair, they will take a call on it. Okay? Right. So generally, this is what I had to tell you today about the Pralay Missile system, which is going to get paraded tomorrow. Once it's paraded, there'll be some trials which will be carried out. So far the trials were developmental trials. Now there'll be acceptance trials for the Army, Navy, Air Force. And maybe tomorrow even the Navy will take it. But as of now, it's Air Force and Navy. And then the induction will start. I feel over the next 2 to 3 years, this will get fielded. And that's adequate time. The leading lot, maybe by another 1 year, will be on ground. Such systems are done in parallel most of the time. So that's how it is all about. That's all I have to tell you. I'll take a few questions. I have time. We'll take any question you have. I'll answer today. There's no hurry. Okay. So that, yeah.